Hello, everybody. Welcome. For those that I have not met before, my name is Lori, and I am a business and personal brand success coach who helps freedom-loving coaches, consultants, and strategists to grow and scale sustainable, location-independent businesses and personal brands, whether they are startups or scaling, and we support them long-term so that they'll never need to look back in their rear-view mirror at that 9-to-5 life again. And today I am joined by Natalie Berth, a serial entrepreneur with 20 plus years of experience in consulting, strategic planning, operations, and startups. She is also a speaker, writer, and social good advocate. Most recent project is Cybersecurity for Humans, a company she founded to teach the average non-techie human the habits that will keep them, their kids, their parents, and businesses safe online. Her goal is to make cybersecurity sexy enough so that people who use the internet will actually take it seriously. And I love that. I love that. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. Um, and I also just want to preface by saying, everybody, you've heard me talk a lot about um, Power Hour, and Natalie and I actually met as a result of Power Hour. So that
We
makes it
did.
even more exciting to have you here. So, welcome. Would love to hear a little bit about you and your story before we kind of dive in.
Sure. So the I can actually just did my whole write up about this for my intro video, but what I first was really interested in the idea of privacy when I was getting my I was in a dual master's program. One of the master's degree, it was the MBA in international communications. And we did cross-cultural communications, we did communication systems. And one of my thesis, we called it substantial research paper, was I didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what, I'll do something on the privacy law. And so I started learning about privacy law, which is when I realized that at least in the US, we actually don't have
Mhm.
any real right to privacy, not a public right of privacy.
Mhm.
And by the time I finished this, my research paper, I was in complete state of paranoia. I was like an absolute like obsessed with privacy and understanding it and all of this stuff. And so everything that I do has dictated around that. And then of course when you're getting online, right? Because this was about the Safe Harbor Act, which was with the European Union had established, which was really
Uh-huh.
really strict. Was it was just going to get worse, tighter and tighter, right? The problems with privacy online were going to get more difficult, and being able to protect our information was going to be more difficult. Fast forward several years when I was working as a business strategist, right? Which I still do sometimes, but I was working as a business strategist, and I knew 5 entrepreneurs in my circle of influence who lost within a 2-week period had lost their access to their websites because they had given their developer the only access and information to it. And so one of them, 2 of them had somebody who didn't pay their hosting bill. One had somebody left over. Somebody else had a former business partner came and stole the website. I mean, it was like all this crazy stuff had happened, and I'm thinking, why would you give all of that away? And I didn't realize how much people didn't know. And
Mhm.
so that's when I started kind of like talking about it and doing about it more, and realized that that the habits are really simple. Of course, like, oh, I've
Mhm.
used the same password and username
Mhm.
combination, and that ends up causing a lot of problems. So that's how I ended up getting into it. And I realized everybody is focused on the back end or
Mhm.
teaching kindergartners. I wish this was not true, but it's true. There are courses online on how to teach, the K through 2 on how to learn how to hack systems. There's nothing online that I could find on how to stay safe.
Which is insane to me. Like, seriously, kindergartners, people learning
Kindergartners,
how to hack. Seriously.
the back end stuff. I thought I was kidding. I was like, oh, this must be something I can look at to see if they're doing stuff for parents. And I was like, what? Teach my kindergartner why would I want my 5-year-old learning how to get the back end of stuff, especially when you're like trying to protect them, especially at that age with everything online. You've got parental controls in there. You don't want to be getting around that stuff. Oh, so
Oh, yeah, that's insane. And I know you and I have had some conversations before, which is why I'm so excited to chat. Because, well, I know you've actually talked to one of my clients who has been um, affected, but I've had multiple clients who have been hacked, lost their Instagrams, like just so many of these situations happening. And our audience, as you know, is primarily almost exclusively remote based, online entrepreneurs, many of them digital nomads and traveling. And many of them, myself included, I believe, are probably not doing things the best way that we can to keep ourselves safe. And you know even a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, like, we didn't have to do the things that we have to do now. And I think it's so important. And I love how you talk about it in terms of making it sexy, because a lot of times, like, people like me, who are not techie necessarily, we cringe at the idea of cybersecurity. So then we just don't do anything, right?
Right. So what I always say is, like, I used to not use the word cybersecurity, but this is sort of like when my kids were in elementary school, they're like, "Well, we don't like to use the word math because it's kind of scary." And it's like, well, if you have an aptitude in math, it's not scary. And what we need to do is use the word math and make it not scary, just make it fun and interesting. And we really need to do that with cybersecurity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
95% of all cyber breaches are due to what's called the human factor. And that basically is, the human factor is simply what people are doing or not doing that puts them in bigger danger.
Mm-hmm.
And another statistics, and I know it's not directly relevant to your audience, but it gives you an idea that the big companies are so serious about this. 25% of the people who are fired from
Yeah.
large companies are fired because they screwed up on their cybersecurity.
Yep.
And so, and the reason they do that is because, like, it's no, I think people always think that the biggest problem, especially with small business owners, I don't have anything that anybody wants. It's not that really that big of a deal. It's, why would they want me? Well, they don't necessarily want you, but if you make yourself an easy target, they're going to come in, they're going to come after you. It could be something as simple as, you don't update your Windows or Mac and you end up with ransomware on your software. Because
Mm-hmm.
what they do, so here's an interesting tidbit, is what they do is basically they're looking for the easiest targets. And the
Yeah.
easiest targets are small, medium business owners, most small, medium sized business owners,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't take it seriously. We don't take it
Mm-hmm.
seriously. Trust is actually our business commodity, right? When you're a small business.
Right.
And yet we are not genuinely, the vast majority of us, and I don't mean like 50%, I mean like 90+%, are not taking cybersecurity seriously. Everybody gets to use the same Wi-Fi at
Mm-hmm.
home,
Mm-hmm.
right? The kids come over and they have their friends come over and they use the Wi-Fi, and now you've got somebody else's kid who's using your Wi-Fi and you don't know how protected they are at home. And so somebody really wants to get into your stuff because they've decided they're going to target you for some reason, and they realize that you've locked down your stuff. They can find, because on the Wi-Fi it
Yeah.
says who's got access, right? Oh, that kid who lives down the street. Let me see if I can get in through their, I mean, I wish I was joking, right? In through their Wi-Fi, in through their coffee maker, because I Internet of Things, and then they work backwards until they come to you if that's what they need to do.
Wow.
There's, I mean, it's scary,
That's
right?
amazing.
Like,
I've never even thought about that. And just one thing that popped into my mind too is, like, sorry to be bluntly honest, guys, but your teenage boys or your husbands or partners watching porn, for instance,
right.
like, like, you don't even think, I've never thought about
So
that
what's
type of stuff.
interesting is like a site like Pornhub,
Mm-hmm.
the well-known sites
Yeah.
actually probably are really strong and keep a lot of stuff, like they're constantly cleaning the stuff. But if you're going off the beaten path, and that's just because um it just happens, like Pornhub actually really wants to be, it's kind of a weird thing, but they really want to be a good online citizen, and so they're really working, like, one of the things,
Well,
this
there
is
you go,
completely
guys. That's what
a
you
non
get for
sequitur,
talking.
but what they did is actually they realized how many kids, because of how it is in some states, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
teaching full sets of education, kids were going to the Pornhub to learn about sex. And so they actually now have, when you go on to their website, are you here to learn about sex, or are you here for your fantasies and pleasure? And if you're there to learn about sex, they actually have a whole series that's for free for people to learn out about sex. So they actually are a good citizen online, whether or not you agree with porn, whether or not you watch it. You know, so I'm less worried about
but
that.
go there then if you're looking for porn, guys, and keep yourself safe.
Make sure you're watching on Pornhub. But on the backside, and I don't know about OnlyFans because I know that's kind of like a fetish, and that goes through the whole gamut of stuff. But I would be more concerned about the websites that are not as well known and don't necessarily have they're not necessarily trying to be good citizens, right? Good what's the word I'm looking for? Digital citizens. That's what I'm
Yeah.
So it's a kind of an interesting thing, but as digital nomads, right, or as where you want to go, there's you're if you're collecting people's information, their names or their birthdays or their email addresses. A lot of us are using third-party payment systems, so we never actually have access to their credit cards, so you don't have to worry about that piece. But they're just kind of they'll do something what's called a wide net. Bad guys will come in and they'll just try desperately to do this. And if they have your and this was your client that we ended up talking to, you know, her email and username password, the combination,
Yeah.
you know, if she's using that on absolutely everything, then that's like a really good time because now they've got access to everything and they build a profile. And so sometimes it's just a matter of doing this information, but they combine all this stuff in the dark web, and the better profiles make money. And how much do you figure if you got broken into it would cost you?
Well, you know, to be honest, like I don't necessarily know the dollar amount, but I know that if somebody broke in and, for instance, took my Facebook account or my email account, and then they have access to everything, right? You know, and they are able to steal absolutely everything from me. Like and I've seen this happen to people where they've lost their primary social media account for their business because they've been hacked, and it's literally like you're at square one, especially if you don't have an email list built.
Right. So how many days?
How many days of I mean, well, if I lost my, for instance, let's say I lost my Facebook account, it's linked to my Instagram and my Facebook, my personal, you know, account, my business page, my Facebook group. Like it wouldn't even be days, honestly. It would
It'd
be
be
months
months.
because if I couldn't get this group back, then yeah. Sorry, somebody just wrote a comment. I'm not sure who that was. Oops, that would be me. Yes, girly. Yeah, yes. Make sure absolutely that you change your password in every account. And I know that Natalie is going to talk though about some options for all of us to use that are
I
going to help
will.
to keep
I
us
will.
safe.
But I just want to let you know that however long it takes you and what the value is, which is essentially priceless, but
Mm-hmm.
let's just talk about the time and money, right? It's thousands of dollars. It's
Mm-hmm.
possibly tens of thousands or hundreds of
Oh yeah,
thousands of dollars
absolutely.
lost. You know, that little piece of information is getting sold for a handful of dollars. You're lucky if it's
Yeah.
worth 20 bucks on the dark web, right? And then whoever buys it for whatever little dollar amounts, like that's even the insult, right? You're going to cost me my livelihood in time and money and like, you know, the headaches and heartaches, and then it's only worth like maybe 10 bucks. Like that's like insulting. Like,
Yeah.
how can I not be worth this much more money? And then someone impersonates you and whatever it looks like, and then you're screwed, right? Because then you've got the trust issues. Other people are coming back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
doing this, um and it's really really difficult. It's hard to recover, and so there's a lot of stuff that we can do. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for example, one of the things we talked about is using a password management program.
Mm-hmm.
Some accounts need to be authenticated before they open, right? They do, but it's also not as hard as you think it is, right? Like nothing is 100% um is 100% safe.
Yeah.
Uh if they can access, so here's an example. If they can break
Mm-hmm.
into your Facebook account, Facebook and Instagram, I think Instagram does. Instagram is really weak, but if they can get into your Facebook account, you can get a series of numbers to code to bypass so that you don't have to use two-factor authentication.
Yeah. Your
Now, if you
yep.
have right it's called MFA, multi-factor authentication. It used to be called 2FA. But if you're using multi-factor authentication, you are much better off. It is actually something that you are much better off. But if you're still using the same password and username and password on all of your stuff, you're kind of screwed. You're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, it's inevitable that
It is.
you still have everything else to worry about, because not everything needs, because a lot of times what people do is the MFA is actually optional, and they'll be
Yeah.
like, no, just remember my browser. Right. And so, but if the
Mm-hmm.
keylogger, if you end up with keylogging software on your thing, which literally tracks all of your passwords and everything that you type, or if you use what else? Um Anyway, if you there's a bunch of different ways that they
Mm-hmm.
can still go in and track the information that's on there.
Yeah,
So you're kind
absolutely.
like, some of the stuff is safe, but I would not do this until, like, the big thing would be to make sure that you have really different passwords, not easy passwords. Use, like, one of the things that drives me crazy when I see this is, like, somebody will write their name and put their birthday on it. So I'd be like,
Mhm.
Jane Doe 726, and I'm like, well, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
because now all I have to do is figure out what year you were born, which is not that difficult. If I go onto
yeah,
social media, everyone's like, oh, I'm 40 years old this year, and now I know what year we were born. And you're screwed. Like,
yeah,
this is the problem. So we do not, like, you can put your name, absolutely use your name, because it's much more professional, easier to find. Hot Cats is probably not as professional as Natalie Birth, right?
yeah.
on on the things, but you want to use what's called a password management program. There's actually, this is a good example. There are essentially three types of password management programs. The first
Mhm,
one that we all get all the time is Google, our Chrome, or Microsoft Edge, and Safari will
mhm.
always say to you, do you want us to save this password for you? No, thank you. In fact, go in there and shut it off, and tell them no, thank you, and never ask for that. The best ones are going to be the ones that are the easiest for us to use would be something like LastPass or Dashlane. I can put links in the chat. Um, those will the benefit of those is they work across all of your different platforms.
Mhm,
So it uses on my phone. It's the same one that I use on, when I use different
mhm.
browsers, and can use on somebody else's browser if I need to, and then you just sign out of it.
Yeah.
And that one, the other benefit to that is they will uh, generate random passwords that you will never guess, because it's got like a whole bunch of, it's like, looks like goobly gook, right? Just I don't know how else to describe it.
What do we got here? Yeah. Um, oh yeah. Yes. Sorry. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. And Randy too. Yes. So you're right. It is scary and it happens. And it can cost a lot. It
It
really
can
can.
cost a lot.
So interesting that you say like don't use like the Google Chrome, password saver. So why is that? Because I'll admit that I do
Well,
it.
I will tell you that of the password, they're getting much better, right? But they aren't. They're getting better, but I don't know if you notice, like, there's a lot of updates happening right now.
Mhm,
This is one of the things you always want to be updating, the stuff that you get asked to update, because the reason they're updating is not so that, Google Chrome has a new shiny thing, or Windows,
mhm,
gives you a new shade of blue. It's because there's been a vulnerability, and they've shown it, they found it, they fixed it, and they say, here, this is going on. And now we've all been notified about the vulnerability. And that just doesn't mean the users, that also means the bad guys. And the bad guys go, ooh, there's a hole, and there's people who are not going to update this. And
mhm.
so what ends up happening is they will send out some kind of worm or Trojan, or these are all some type of malware. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Malware is short for malicious software. So malware. And the malware will go out and it will try to attack. And this is why it's all about not making yourself an easy password, an easy target. And so when you've updated your programs, they go, oh, it's too difficult, but someone didn't. And so I don't know if you remember in 2017, there was a ransomware called WannaCry. It turns out it probably came out of, I don't know if you
I
remember
mean, you
WannaCry.
want to cry, right?
Well, I'll tell you, it cost people like $6 trillion. It shut down the UK health system because they had on an old version of Windows and they never updated. Fortune 500 companies were having the same problem because they had not updated their that was the program, and it froze hundreds of thousands of computers with a ransomware demand. And the problem is the ransomware demands back then were like, a few $100s. Then they went up to a $1,700.
Mhm.
Now they're running about $507,000. Like it's gone up a lot. Although apparently I just read an article that they are now now allowing victims time to repair their reputation before they expose people for getting caught with their pants down. But it's it's such a crazy world.
Wow.
It is so sophisticated. And basically what we need to do, and this is why I'm such an acolyte for this, is we need to just learn the habits that keep us safe.
Mhm.
So the problem also with something like Chrome is, if you saved everything in Chrome, and this is my biggest issue with
Mhm.
them, not necessarily just that they're not quite as safe. The Because you're using Chrome all the time, and so it's always open, so it's always
Yeah.
accessible, is that it's not as easy to use on your phone, because
Mhm.
unless you're in the same system, right? I can use, what is it called? The Safari one, but I don't I my desktop is not a Mac, but my phone is an iPhone.
Yeah.
So then that's not going to cross platforms as well. And that's
Right.
with something like LastPass or Dashlane or any of the 500 different versions that are out there will do. So, and one of the advantage of LastPass is they do have a free version. It doesn't have
Mhm.
all of the bells and whistles, but it does have the same level of safety. So I'm a big fan
Okay.
of LastPass, and it's also one of the least expensive ones.
I will say after our last conversation, I have started
Yay!
moving over to LastPass as a result of that. So what about so that's password security, right?
Yep.
Let's talk VPNs because that is something
Yes.
I know that we touched on that I am not super familiar with, but I know especially whether we're digital nomads or even if we can talk, most people I think are solopreneurs in our audience, but I do think a lot also do have VAs, myself included, that are overseas and working on our accounts, not using VPNs. So what, yeah, just
What does the
what do we
VPN
do?
do?
Yeah, what does that
Yeah.
mean?
So actually this is a really good question. There's two components to this. The first is the type of browser that you use, and the second is your internet access and whether or not you use a VPN. VPN stands for a virtual private network. But so the browsers that you can use, you can travel the public way, right? Then you're
Mhm.
using Chrome or Edge or whatever. And that what that does, if you're not in privacy mode, that basically says, oh, Natalie is in Washington, D.C., and this is
Mhm.
what she's doing. And she's interested in red shoes. And so we're going to pop up ads for red shoes. Most of this is marketing, but the problem is it's not just marketing. If it's just marketing and nobody was using it just for marketing, then
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead and show me all the red shoes that you can find, or whatever the face wash that I'm using this week, or the cat food. Like, I don't care. But the problem is they're not the only ones who are looking at it. They all put little cookies
Mhm.
on your thing. Everybody has to accept cookies now, and that also happens. And so when I go back and visit a website that I haven't seen in a while, they go, "Hey, Natalie, welcome back." And I'm like, "Oh, I haven't been here in like 4 years." They
Mhm.
know, because if I'm using the same computer.
Yeah.
So if you're in private mode, it hides that header so that they don't know that information. So that's private mode. Now there are some browsers like
Mhm.
Firefox and Brave and DuckDuckGo that are automatically on private. Like, that is their
Okay.
MO. Firefox, I think you can use public, but most they're automatically on
Okay.
private. So
So is private
that
like the incognito mode,
yeah,
like for
incognito.
Chrome? Okay.
It's like incognito, except
Okay.
there's been some question about Chrome not being as incognito as they're supposed to be. I was like, how do you know I wanted to buy red shoes? You're supposed to be an incognito. So those are the browsers, right? And then if you really want to get, deep and dark, if you want to access the dark web, there's Tor, the onion browser, Tor. So there's that. Then the VPN. So then you use your internet access point. So Comcast, Verizon, whatever you're using.
Right.
Those are the two big ones, Xfinity, whatever. Um, they can track the access point. They know that I'm getting onto the internet using that access. Okay.
Mhm.
And then my browser is telling everyone where I'm traveling. In the virtual private network, what
Okay.
that does is it hides all of that information. So it keeps the company, keeps Verizon from knowing where I jumped
Mhm.
online. It is
Okay.
not 100%, but it's as close to secure as you're going to get. And so what people do, like, this gets used, I mean, it's really good, like, we should all be using VPNs, but it becomes really important in parts of the world where they have to worry about censorship, especially if you're using a VA in places that may not have a stable government, or a government that tends to be more authoritarian or dictator. They don't want people to have access to Twitter or Facebook or,
Right.
whatever it is, because they fear the repercussions. So that's when you would use a virtual private network. And they're not expensive. I mean, I could do the virtual private network from Verizon, but then
Mhm.
to me that kind of like defeats the point. But there are free ones out there. There's, like, you pay something like 40 or 100 US dollars for a free lifetime access, which
Okay.
I'm not really quite sure how that works as a long-term business model, but whatever. You do it until they go out of business, or you pay an annual fee. And it's not terribly expensive, but it's definitely worth it, because then nobody can find you. And this goes with Chrome, extension called Viper, VYPER,
Okay.
that actually even hides that little bit of time, anything. So what happened, how do I describe this? It starts getting into technical stuff, but it ends up even closing the loop even more. There's always going to be a little bit of a loop, that if someone can catch that split second when you can go onto a new page before
Okay.
everything gets hidden, um, the Viper will close that down too. So I was just reading it about this morning. I'm not sure if it's publicly available yet, but it seems to be getting some good reviews.
Okay. Well, that's been like super helpful, guys. Like, I don't often say this about our videos, but yeah, it is so informative. Like, you have the ability to save this, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Instagram, I don't know if you can bookmark or not, but save this episode, because you are going to want to come back to this at some point. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. So this has been amazing, Natalie.
My pleasure.
And I know that some people are going to want to connect with you. So I am going to pop up your contact information, but what is the best way to connect with you?
So the at Cybersec for Humans, the IG, the Instagram thing that's showing up is actually also my handle on YouTube. I don't have the videos up yet.
Okay.
I've got to start uploading those, but it's also, bookmark that, because that will be stuff that's happening. And I'll be doing, like, posting stuff like this, but also how to use different programs, or just stuff that I don't necessarily offer in the courses that I do.
Okay.
And that's also on Facebook, is my same thing. And that is also my website, which cybersecforhumans.com. So
Perfect.
I tried to make it easy. I actually feel like I lucked out. The universe was like, yes, this is the right URL, and everything was still available. So I took it all. So that's
Lovely.
probably the best way. Anyone can DM me on Facebook
Okay.
as well. So either way
Yeah.
works.
And those of you
I'm
that are
still
in the
going with my
Facebook
married
group,
name. So I
yeah,
think it's
Natalie's in
listed.
our Facebook group,
Yeah,
guys.
so
So
in
you can
Facebook
also
group
connect
now,
with
so
her
you're
there.
welcome to message me on this as well.
Awesome, awesome. And I think you'll be dropping some links in the comments in the next few
I
days too,
will.
right?
I will. I
So
will. I will definitely. If anybody's interested for more information, I'll send you the links to the stuff that's going on, and also if you're interested in the course, I'm happy to offer a discount code for that as well. That one specifically for business. Working on the parents one next.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
That's a whole other different scary story.
yeah, that's a whole different scary story.
Woo!
But we'll have to have you come back and talk about that, because I know we have a lot of parents in our audience, both digital nomads and just like stay at home parents, or just parents in general. So I know that it's freaking terrifying that there are courses out there for children on how to hack. So we're
Yeah, I
going to
will
need to
be
talk
that
more
that
about
I'll
that
never be
one.
teaching a course on that. I'm more like you need to understand where your kids are hanging out online. That's a different question, and how to get them,
Oh, yeah.
because they're like my mentality on this is if they're young enough to learn how to hack and do the stuff on the back end, they're young enough to also understand, the good. Hey, you have to learn. Like I remember when uh my youngest was 3 years old, and I knew he knew how to cross the road, but he kept running across the road at my mother's house without paying attention. And I got mad. And so we went out to her front garden where there was a wide sidewalk, and we practiced for an hour and a half, which is ridiculous because he was being stubborn. But you know what? He got that lesson down pat. And this is like as simple as, what to look for and how to go across the street. Like, how are you crossing the street in the interwebs? And the kids need to learn that too. Actually,
Yeah.
we all do, but the kids need to as well.
Yeah, you're right. We all do. So this has been amazing, guys. Follow Natalie on Instagram and connect with her. Save this video and watch the comments here in the coming days, because there is going to be some stuff shared with you, including those discount codes that she mentioned. And yes, thank you for all the nuggets. Agreed.
My pleasure.
Agreed. This has been fantastic, Natalie. I always enjoy talking to you. So we may have her back, guys.
We have new stuff, or we've got a new topic. I could talk about this all day. I've got crazy stories. I have some wild stories that are always fun to share too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, go ahead, keep connected with her. And, from my perspective, again, I'm here to support you in your business. So if you are struggling with something, you're stuck, or you just know that you're ready to take that next step to level up your business, please reach out to myself or my team, so that we can support you to get that remote-based freedom that you're looking for, and to build a powerful personal brand that is authentically you. So again, send us a DM to myself or any of the other admins, and let's make this year the year that you are able to leave that 9-to-5 life in the rear view forever. Thank you again, Natalie, for being here. And thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.